Hello everybody, welcome to my studio in Ventura. Today I'm going to share some of my carving techniques with you. I'll be working on a vase like this where I'm doing a split leaf philodendron design. This one I did the other day, and so we're going to do another one today. Let's set this one aside. I usually start with a template. I cut out this template, you can take images off the internet, copy them out if you'd like to, resize them, cut them out, and use it as a template. And what I will do is come in, and I've already done that to this vase here. I've actually laid the leaf down and traced around it with a pencil. I think you can see the pencil marks all the way around. And I started carving one area already to get it started. But using the pencil, laying out gives you an idea of where you want your design to be. So I'm going to plug in my little camera so we can see things up close. And pop this little baby down here so now you can see those pencil marks a little bit better. I like to work with the mini ribbon tools. These are my favorite for carving with. I use mostly the triangular shaped one right here, and also this kind of squared off one. Occasionally I'll use the round one. Now the round was too round for me, so I actually squeezed it to get it more oval, because there are a few spots where I can use that tool on this carving today. And then also a brush is always handy for cleaning off the crumbs as you're working on your piece. And occasionally, like for larger areas, I'll just use a good old trimming tool, especially when you get down into these lower areas where you have a lot of clay that you might want to remove. That works really, really well. First thing I like to do once I start my design, I'm going to just, with the triangular tool, I'm just going to come in here and cut out where the lines are, the outlines of the pieces. I'm starting on the leaf that's actually going to be on the top layer. I have probably at least 3 layers of leaves, which I like to do, kind of to overlap your designs, because it gives some interesting depth to the piece as well. I just think it's just a little more interesting. So we'll just come along here. And I'm going to come in, this is the secondary leaf that's going to be underneath. I'll just get him outlines carved here. I got this one around here. And then this is the third leaf that's going to be underneath. So we'll start getting him carved out here as well. Get all those little sections going. I like to work on leather hard clay. This is getting a little dry towards the top. I actually had to wet it down today to get it to the consistency that I like to work with. I made this vase yesterday and let it sit overnight, got a little dry. You can see that as I'm carving these lines, I'm supporting my hand with my fingers. So this hand is supporting while this one is doing the carving. That just gives you more control over your tools that way. We'll just do a little center line right down that little baby. And center line right down this one as well. And let's see, get this third guy. And his little edge there. Once I have these lines in here, I'm just going to come back. I'm just going to start removing some of that clay that's in the background. So we get the feeling of 3 dimension in our pieces. And these are kind of small little areas. I can actually come in with this oval shaped tool and clean those areas out really nicely for these smaller areas. And also the oval is perfect for getting those little cuts that are in the split leaf philodendron. Nice oval shapes. This will continue with the oval one. Start removing some of the background clay here as well. I want to come in here and redefine where those edges are. And you can kind of go at a little bit of a 45-degree angle. So it's not quite so squared off. This is the area here that we need to also remove. And this is the leaf that's going to be on top. Now I don't want you both leaves to be the same level across because one is sitting on top of the other. So I come back in here with my squared off little guy, and I'm actually going to carve some of that clay away and kind of come up at an angle. You don't have to carve the entire leaf away. Just kind of give it the effect of being underneath by cutting more at the line and just kind of gradually reducing the amount of strength that you use. So it kind of comes up at an angle. And we need to do it here as well to get it under that little section. Get that cleaned off. Here we need to dig a little deeper. Get that. Need to find a little bit better there. So by digging a little deeper here, now we will be giving this leaf some volume on its edges. So right now I have like 3 layers of clay that I've dug out. You know, a little bit of this as well. And refine that area. This is the way I like to work to get that dimension. You kind of go back and forth to areas. Refine that little line there. Then I've got to come in here as well and cut this one down a little lower because this guy's on top. And we'll just blend that up to this area. Now this area is going to totally come out. So we'll dig that out so we can see where our leaves are supposed to be. So dig, dig, dig. Put this little guy in here. Oftentimes I'll come back with this squared off one and again kind of at a 45-degree angle shape the edges of those leaves with the square rather than the triangle. And just soften the edges a little bit. And we need to get rid of the rest of this down here, even lower here than up here. So we don't lose this leaf that's in here. I'm working today on a cone 5/6 V-mix. Since I fire cone 5/6 at home, this is a really nice clay to work with. And there's not a lot of grit in it, so you don't have to worry about the little pieces flaking off. There we go, get that all cleaned up nicely. And so we're going to refine this leaf under here. Refine where this leaf connects with that one. And now this leaf is underneath this leaf. So we need to reduce some of its volume here. Give it a feeling of depth as well. And it's under this one here on this side as well. So I'm digging harder right at the line here than I am at this edge. And I've added a little bit of an angle with my tool. Now we need to come in and refine this edge here so we don't lose it. The top of this bottom leaf. You can see I just kind of switch back and forth between the tools. Now the drier your clay is, the harder it's going to be to carve. And you're also going to eventually carve right through your tools. I just carved through one yesterday. I picked it up to use today and it was totally broken on this little point right here. Clay is pretty hard on them. Now we come in here, give some depth in there. Good. And come back up here and clean this up a little bit, make it look a little nicer. This guy, we're going to continue on here and clean out this interior space. Get that little oval. It's quite a bit of pressure here to get down in there as it's getting a little on the dry side. If this got too dry for me to work with nicely, I would probably just stop and redampen it. I spritz it with a sprayer. Let it sit for a few minutes to absorb in. And where's my square? There's my square tool. I can come here and round that off nicely. You can see here where I've carved this one earlier is now underneath. So we have 1, 2, 3 layers. This one needs to come down. That nice little point on that leaf. And pull back some of this clay. Clean out that little cutout in the leaf. A little bit bigger. And I also have one here. Let me come back to my line. Get this little divot and this little divot. For my line, I don't want to just leave a straight line coming down here. I kind of go again at a little bit of an angle on both sides to give it a little bit of a bevel. And I do this with the flat tool. It kind of softens that line a little, kind of the central rib of that leaf. And we have a little cutout here as well on the leaf. Okay, let's see where we are. We can do the same up here with this line. These little divots cut out. Any kind of carving tool that you get used to, whatever you can use to remove the clay, doesn't matter. I know I've seen videos where people use different types of tools to work with. I've just always worked with these mini ribbon tools, which are real handy to work with. We need to come back in here and clean up our edges here. That way look a little nicer. It's down in here where I'm getting into the open space where I can come in with my trimming tool and I can just pull away some of that clay. Having to really pull at this because again the clay is getting a little dry. Kind of probably at like a hard leather hard right now. Come right in there. Again, I'm pulling most of it here, digging deeper here, and then not so much here. Just kind of coming at a taper. Clean up those leaves right there where I did a little bit of extra cutting. Might as well get rid of this over here on this side and finish up this leaf. I like to pull down. You do kind of leave a little bit of a texture when you're doing this. So I pull down the length of the base and keep my lines very linear. I can come in, and oftentimes I do, once this is totally dry, I'll come back in with a scrubby and kind of scrub this area and kind of clean up any of those little lines that I might have created by carving. Whoop. Is the line. Oh, thank goodness for clay. You can just reshape it a little bit. When I want to finish this side of the leaf, I need to refine and define where this other leaf is going to be underneath here. So I will carve out these shapes as well. Got this one here. This comes out. This is the background right here, so we'll get rid of that. Then we can kind of dig out, so this is all background as well. Dig that down as well. And this leaf actually kind of comes into this area a little bit. If you're not quite sure where it goes, you can always put your pattern back down. I don't want to mess up where I need to carve. Okay, that is background for sure. But the rest of this is leaf. Kind of part of the leaf that comes here and the part of the leaf that comes in here as well. But again, it needs to be a little bit lower than the top leaf. This is going to be background in here. Get these two guys going. I've gotten really hooked on carving. I just really enjoy it. To me, it's very relaxing. You can also combine it with piercing. If I wanted to, I could make some of these areas go all the way through, kind of give more of a lacy look to the piece. But I don't want the piercing today. Sometimes you end up with piercing if you carve too far. That has happened, so you go with it and just make a few more holes here and there. But hopefully those are mostly at the top if you're using it for a flower vase, so you don't have water leaking out. Then we need to bring this down a little bit lower than that top leaf, right in this area. Here's my triangle. because this section is part of this leaf, and this is the background, I need to dig this down a little deeper to designate that it is background and not part of that leaf. So just kind of smoothing those edges over a little bit. And cleaning them up. Let's look back and see what we've done here on this section. Looking pretty good with these guys. One wants to get rid of their trimmings once in a while. I am working on a sponge. I recommend a sponge or a pillow or some towels or something, so it gives you that cushioning effect while you're working on your piece. What I like to do once I get an area done, and even after I go all the way around, that's going to take me a couple more hours to finish carving the rest of those leaves and refining everything. I like to come in here with a little bit of water on my finger and just go over all those cut lines. It just softens the edges nicely. It cleans up some of your carving marks as well. There we go. I'm going to clean that up nicely. When I come back to glaze this, I'll probably put a underglaze colors on the leaves. Give a little bit of the green of the leaf. And leave the background the raw color of the clay, so it'll be the creamy white of the bee mix. I think that'll be pretty, very tropical looking. Bring all those babies up. If you want to experiment with trimming or with carving, I would just recommend just starting with a simple design on a small piece, just so you get kind of the feel of how to do it before you work on anything too complicated. There we go. Get this cleaned up over here. Then we'll look at our area that we finished. Get this down here a little bit. And we're getting some really nice carving effect on our piece as we go around. I'm going to do a little cleaning up there. Looks like I carved a little too much of something away. I'll just refine that area. A little water. And we're going to have ourselves a nice carved piece when we're done. And as you can see on the top also, I cut the shape of the top to correspond with the shape of the leaves. So there's our carved piece. Like I say, I have a couple more hours of work on this little baby, so I'll finish that up this afternoon and let her dry and get her fired. Have fun. Just relax and enjoy what you're doing. If you make mistakes, just go with it. Change the shape of your piece if you need to. If you're careful, again, if you're careful while you're working with your tools, if you're supporting your hand while you're carving, you'll have a lot of control over where that tool goes. Just don't do it out here in midair. Actually have some control so you can follow those lines. Again, I'm just working with a template. You can also freehand. I mean, if you just want a really freehand design, but working with a template, going around it with a pencil to get my design on there so I can see where I'm carving and get the nice layout. Then just linear cut the edges, the outlines, and then start your carving to get your depth between your pieces. So you get those leaves that are the top leaves and the secondary leaves and the third leaves, and start getting a lot of that depth in there. Okay? Have some fun with it. Thanks for watching.